but also keep updating you on its progress. Of course, a number of members who are not here at the state opening are still not with us. Honorable Wama, Honorable Zake, they are still not yet able to join us. Finally, honorable members, the Internet Service Providers Association of Uganda would like to thank very, very much the Committee of ICT and this House for the support they gave them expeditiously in reviewing the Uganda Communications Fees and Fines Amended Regulations. As you remember, our House took up the issue and the regulations were revoked in the interest of the Internet users. So they thank you. And I also want to thank you, our members, for your vigilance and your hard work. Thank you. Our members, on Thursday, we shall be having an interdenominational prayer. Normally at the new session, we do have our prayers. We join the Catholics, the Anglicans, and the Muslims. This time we shall have it on Thursday, 9th July, starting at 9 a.m. at the ground level parking lot here. This has been our practice at every session. And of course, we intend to observe the standard operating procedures relating to COVID-19. So honored members are invited to come and we start off with those prayers for the session. There are a few matters of national concern. Honorable Ntende, 2 minutes. Yes, Honorable Gwal.
Right Honorable Speaker, in response to communication from the Chair, I wish to thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, to assign a day when Parliament will have gathered together to thank God for what the Lord has done for us in the last session, and also to seek His guidance for this particular session. Right Honorable Speaker, I feel that as we move to the next session, we need the guidance of the Lord. We went through a very difficult time in the last session, and we believe that this particular session really needs God's guidance. And I pray that although we are coming on that day, we cannot all come because we have been advised that we still have to keep the number as small as we can. But I believe that all of you in spirit will be with us because we need to seek the guidance of the Lord as we go through the 2021 preparation for the elections. So I thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving us that day to pray for this nation and particularly for Parliament. I thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Ntende, 2 minutes, followed by Honorable Kibalia, then Honorable Lucy Akelo.
Right Honorable Speaker and honorable colleagues, I'm here to raise a very important issue concerning our outgrowers farmers in the Busoga sub-region. Right Honorable, the outgrowers of the sugar cane, they have a big outcry because as we talk now, these outgrowers have their cane in excess, but they cannot sell their cane to the millers. Secondly, the outgrowers have burnt cane as a result of malicious people, as a result of bushfire, and some of these outgrowers grow their cane out of loans. They pick money from banks, from microfinance institutions, from village circles, but these farmers are stranded, Right Honorable Speaker and honorable colleagues. And the millers that are in the Busoga sub-region have actually refused to buy the burnt canes from our farmers. And it's very sad. that for them, they continue to mill, to crush their burnt canes, but they cannot buy burnt canes from our farmers. As a result, our farmers' houses, land, and some property that they put as collateral security is being taken by those financial institutions. And many houses have been labeled for sale. If you move in the Busoga sub-region, you will find about 5, 6, 7, 10 houses in a village labeled for sale. Right, Honorable Speaker, as people's representative, we want to request government to come in through the Ministry of Finance and Trade to bail out our farmers. Because as leaders, when we try to approach the mirrors of Busoga who are doing this job, they said they have plenty of sugar in their stores, which they cannot sell, and therefore they have no money to buy the cane from the farmers. And we are saying that government, through the loan facilities to Uganda Development Bank, can actually buy off this sugar so that the millers can have the money to buy the farmers' sugar cane, which is in excess. Honorable colleagues, the excess sugar cane in Busoga, as we talk now, stands at 7.5 million tons. And the capacity of these millers to crush this cane will take them 10 years to finish the excess capacity. And yet, they are stuck. They have loans to clear. Two, we want to request the government to come in seriously to see how they can, especially the Minister of Trade, to invite the millers to have a meeting with them and give our farmers priority. Because the only intervention as of now, if the minister can have a meeting with these millers and request them to suspend crushing their cane and they concentrate crushing the cane of the farmers for at least 90 days, some relief, some life will come in Busoga. But as we talk now, our people are leaping, they are living in poverty, and they are living in great fear because their property, houses, motorbikes, and land is being taken by the financial institutions. I thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Ntende. Leader of government business is not here, but it's very unfortunate that the battleground of the sugar industry is in Busoga. Last year, His Excellency the President came to Busoga. He met the farmers, and he said he would support the farmers of Busoga to establish their own mill, and that through the Uganda Development Corporation, the mill will be funded. We have been waiting, and this morning I called the UDC. Apparently, there's no instructions, either verbal or in writing, from the President, from the Minister of Trade. Nobody has written to them to say support the farmers of Busoga to do this. So that remains hanging. Secondly, despite the law being made, there is no sugar board because the act has not been implemented. That's why the farmers are getting all these problems. So I want to ask the Minister for Trade to come and address these issues, but to begin by meeting the millers to ask them to buy the cane from the farmers, because they are crushing their own burnt cane, but I don't want the burnt cane of the Busoga. So it's really, really unfortunate. So the minister should come back to us. Today is Tuesday, next Tuesday, and give us an update on this issue. It's very, very urgent and touches the lives of so many people. Thank you. Honorable Kivalia, 2 minutes. Then Lucy Akelo.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, the issue I raised concerns in Zambia Police Barracks. Right Honorable Speaker, if there is any institution that is hard to change in this government, even if there is a change of anything, it's what we call the Uganda Police Force. Right Honorable Speaker, last week I visited in Zambia Police Barracks when I was visiting someone. But when you reach in Zambia Police Barracks, Right Honorable Speaker, you don't believe that that is the police that has the emblem of the crested Ukraine, and it has the flag of Uganda, and it's a reflection of what we call a Uganda Police Force. Right Honorable Speaker, for around 2 months, Zambia Police Barracks has not been having power. God was clear when he said, let there be light, and he put light. Uganda, we are saying in Zambia Police Barracks cannot have light, Right Honorable Speaker. Yet we are saying we are teaching children using TVs, we are having this and the other, but in Zambia Police Barracks, which would be #1 police barracks in this country that we would be proud of, is suffering. Right Honorable Speaker, for some time, Zambia Police Barracks has not been having water. When it gets water this week, it will not have water next week. Right Honorable Speaker, if you went there, I would even employ in our prayers to have the Committee of Defense to visit in Zambia Police Barracks. If you reached in Zambia Police Barracks, Right Honorable Speaker, you don't believe that the people who are committed to serve this country are the ones sleeping in that barracks. There is total congestion, the environment is funny, everything is just appalling. You can't believe that that police barracks is in Kampala. You would imagine maybe it's in Buyende or any other place. But Right Honorable Speaker, Zambia Police Barracks is in Kampala, the capital city of Uganda, where we are all proud, and when we see the officers moving and guarding us and helping us, we don't feel and share what they are going through. But Right Honorable Speaker, the situation in Zambia Police Barracks is unbelievable. We can't live in this country when others are sleeping in other places, good environment, bungalows, having everything okay, when the officers who are responsible for the peace of this country are suffering like that. Right Honorable Speaker, our prayers. One, I request that the Committee of Internal Affairs visit that place to give a report. Right Honorable Speaker, the Chief Whip is saying COVID, but I passed the Jinja and I found it officers from the Prime Minister's office holding a workshop somewhere in a hotel in Jinja, which I don't want to report. But it's the Chief Whip who is insinuating my report, but I can report that. Right Honorable Speaker, too, I request the Minister of Internal Affairs to really intervene. When we were young, Right Honorable Speaker, by then I think the IGP was General Wamala. He was promising the greatest environment for the police officers. We wonder what happened, where that dream ended. Whatever happened, I just can't believe. When we were on the Committee of Physical Infrastructure, Right Honorable Speaker, one other day there was a budget to have housing for police officers. We wonder what happened. So our prayers to have the Minister of Internal Affairs really come and tell us whether he's proud that he's having in Zambia Police Barracks be like that, whether he's proud that there is no power in Zambia Police Barracks, or he's proud of the environment. Lastly, Right Honorable Speaker, we request the Minister of Finance. Right Honorable Speaker, the Minister of Finance is always here. The two ministers are always here, saying there is this supplementary, there is this money, we are diverting this to do this, we diverted this money from this budget to this area to do this. For once, let them consider Zambia Police Barracks, which could be a reflection of other barracks elsewhere, and have these people also live a decent life like the way we live. We thank you, Right Honorable.
Thank you very much. Honourable members, the Minister for Internal Affairs should come and address this House on the state of utilities, both water and power for Zambia Police Barracks. Secondly, the Committee of Defense and Internal Affairs should visit the barracks and give us a report. Thirdly, I really want to know, when General Kaihura was still the IGP, there were facilities being constructed in Naguru. I even visited them. They were supposed to be used to decongest many of the barracks so that the officers could have somewhere to stay. I don't know what has happened. The other day I flew near there. It seems they are just there, incomplete. I don't know why. I don't know. I think we need a report on that situation so that we can know how our officers are going to live. So the Minister of Internal Affairs on the utilities and also the status of the accommodation which was being constructed for the officers at Naguru. If you can come back to us by today's Tuesday next week. These are urgent issues. Honorable Akelo. Honorable Akelo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise on a matter of urgent national importance regarding a shootout that took place at Elego border on Friday night. Madam Speaker, because of the COVID-19 and because of the high infection at Elego and many of the border places, security has patrolled the border areas, the porous border areas. Unfortunately, at Elego, this is being used to make money and to crack deals. And what I'm talking about is, if you want to cross over to Uganda from South Sudan, you just use these porous borders, cross over, pay some little money, and you're good to go. But what is really, really very disturbing is that the business of the sale of marijuana struck Nira. It's Mairunji, sorry. Mairunji struck Nira. This is what caused the shootout on Friday between the UPDF who are patrolling the borders and the soldiers from South Sudan. And as a result, one of our soldiers was shot on the buttocks. Yes. Madam Speaker, this is making the work of the District Task Force of Amoro very, very difficult. The number of community infections are going high every day in Amoro. The district is struggling with the little resources, and we are hoping to get support from the security people to control the borders, but unfortunately we are getting this very disturbing news. Madam Speaker, my prayers is that the Ministry of Security comes up and explains to us what is happening at Elego. Why is there so much impunity, especially when it comes to the patrol and control of these borders, of these porous borders? Information accepted.
Really?
Madam Speaker, I want to thank my colleague for allowing me to give information. I'm one of the MPs from the border. True, I want to agree with my sister that we have too much, with your permission, with too much deployment on the porous borders. But it has not helped. It has not helped because the officers and the security personnel who are deployed on the borders are complaining. Because how do you deploy a soldier who eats 1 meal a day and you don't expect him to solicit money from the people who are crossing? Therefore, I would like to inform the whole country that these porous borders, Mutukula, Busia, Alegu are the same. The security officers who are deployed are soliciting money from and encouraging people to cross. As I talk now, we have COVID-19 positive case in the community in Busia. We have 1 case now. But because of the mishandling by the National Task Force, it is encouraging these people to solicit money from the common people.
Procedure.
Right Honorable Speaker, I'm raising on a point of procedure because Honorable Macho is making it a routine to use a colleague's time who has serious information to put this House to bring issues concerning his particular area where he has not come to you to seek for special time or seek for time to raise a matter which needs urgent attention in his constituency. This is the second or third time I am watching Honorable Macho. The honorable member on the floor wants attention quickly. Therefore, she needs time to bring out the matter that concerns her constituency. Is it procedurally correct, Madam Speaker, for a member to stand up and interrupt a member who is well informed about the issue she's raising? Is he moving on very well? Right, Honorable?
No, the members, sometimes I wonder why members surrender their time. No, you have surrendered your time. You will not have prayers. You surrendered your time. Because, you know, people come, then they divert you. Now we talk about bribery. You are talking about Mairungi at the border. Anyway, Honorable Triamuheza and then Honorable Rakojo. If I give you an opportunity, don't donate your time. Triamuheza. Honorable Rakojo. Then Honorable Katoto. Honorable Rakojo. Rakojo.
Madam Speaker.
Please, Honorable Rakojo. Honorable Rakojo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I raise on a matter of national importance. Mine is really a reminder to the Minister for Environment. I raised this matter on the floor of the House on the 17th of March this year. It concerns harassment and eviction of the people in Kalombe and Sowe forests in Gomba West. And the villages most affected were Kabari Kamugore and Chigayaza. The residents were displaced by some privileged outsiders. There was no chance given to the locals to continue in occupation and plant the trees. Instead, outsiders were preferred. NFA officials were practicing theft of crop harvest when conducting the exercise. They were even stealing essentials in the houses like sugar and salt. They carried out the evictions in an unfair manner. They were extorting money from old occupants and creating fear in the population because of the existence of army in uniform. There's an existing primary school and church which the locals were afraid to use. Well, now because of Corona we cannot. There was rejection of registration in the Yellow Book at the time owing to that harassment they were getting. My prayer was that violence, eviction, and extortion should stop immediately and that there should be an investigation of the actions of NFA, especially somebody called Mr. Mujisha, because every local talks about him and how he swears nobody apart from the president can stop him. I prayed that the Minister for Water and Environment investigates the matter immediately, and you directed that the Minister of Environment is directed to examine the situation in Sowe and Kalombe Forest in Gomba, and was supposed to give us an update by Thursday the next week. So mine is a reminder, Madam Speaker. Should I take leave? I'm reiterating my prayer to request that, for the Minister for Water and Environment to investigate the matter. And you had directed that she should investigate it and examine the situation in Nsowe and Kalombe forests and give an update by Thursday of that week. So,
how long ago? More than 2 months?
That was 17th of March.
Oh.
Yes.
So the Minister of Water and Environment?
Yes, ma'am.
Is required to come back quickly to this House. I think he should come back Thursday because March is a long time and respond to the issues raised by Honorable Rakojo. It has taken very long.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Now, Honorable Katoto. Now, the members on the issue of the Amuru border, the Minister of Internal Affairs is in charge of the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Control Act. So we'd ask him to investigate the issue of the sale or use of narcotic drugs at the border, the Minister of Defense should also update us on the relations between the forces at the border between South Sudan and Uganda, and possibly the Minister for East African Cooperation should also join that team and give us a comprehensive picture about what is going on at the northern border of Uganda. We are giving you up to Thursday next week. Yes, Honorable Katoto.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm raising
2 minutes.
A matter of national importance concerning about vanilla growers in my constituency. Madam Speaker, it is as if my constituency is on an island in the heaven. Whereas many farmers in Uganda sell their vanilla at 250 a kilo, sometimes 200, the people in my constituency are forced to sell it at 50 per kilo. 50,000 per kilo, Uganda shillings. Madam Speaker, as I talk, yesterday people were up revolting, and even today. Madam Speaker, I tried to raise the minister, but as if the minister is on the Mars. Madam Speaker, heaven is better, but Mars is far. When I tried to reach him, I also sent him a message, the Minister of Agriculture. Madam Speaker, I tried to ring the RDC and several forces because they were putting roadblocks, saying that there is no any farmer allowed to take his vanilla to Kasese to sell it. I tried my level best, but it was in vain since the Minister of Agriculture was not there to answer and he could not pick my calls. Madam Speaker, as I speak now, when you visit the vanilla growers, they do starve because that is a crop which is even stolen when it is still raw. They put in a lot of effort, they don't sleep, but reaching time of harvesting and selling, someone discourages them like that. My prayers, Madam Speaker. I pray that you instruct the Minister of Agriculture immediately to go to Katerera and have a meeting with those farmers. Another prayer is that the minister should in any way allow my people to sell vanilla all over the market in Uganda, not to send to them particular buyers who have fixed prices. Madam Speaker, lastly, I beg that the security, instead of preventing people to take their vanilla to sell it to Kasese, they should at least provide security for their crop. I beg to move.
No. Is there a part of this country where you cannot sell something? Is there a part of the country where you're not allowed to move? Madam Speaker, I want you, if you can investigate Katerera. People are not allowed to carry their vanilla to anywhere. Is the Minister of Agriculture here? Yes, Honorable Government Chief.
Right, Honorable Speaker and my colleague, Honorable Katoto. The matter seems to be multi-sectoral. When you're talking about markets, it falls in the docket of the Minister of Trade. The Minister of Agriculture can help in making sure that the farms are organized. But when it comes to selling, it is the Minister of Trade. And it seems the farmers of vanilla in Katerera need somebody to go there and organize them, form a cooperative so that they are not fleeced. Otherwise, with a liberalized economy where produce just hits the market, it will be very difficult for a minister, of course, who will be acting on behalf of government, to begin setting prices for our produce. But what we can do is to make sure that we organize them into a formidable group Like the banana growers in the Western, you don't just look for a market, you don't just bump into a banana plantation without going through their leader. They determine the price for each banana. Yes, and in some areas, the maize growers. So the vanilla growers in Katerera will need a concerted effort, and I want to pledge, Right Honorable Speaker, that I inform the Prime Minister so that we choose the ministers to find what is on the ground and see what they can, where they can come in and help. Otherwise, to ask the Minister of Agriculture, when your concern is about prices, I think you are asking a wrong minister. Okay. I was giving information. The floor is not mine, and I'm done.
Members,
thank you very much.
I think the farmers need assistance, but I wanted to know first who prevents them from moving out of this. That's what I want to know first before we get the other with the assistance. Who stops them from moving to sell outside Katerera?
Madam Speaker, the district people claim that it came from up, from above. As I'm telling you, Madam Speaker, I have the Honorable who is telling me that they are buying 200,000. But my people are forced to sell 50,000.
Okay, Honorable, I want to know who gave the order that you Katerera people don't move out, don't take your vanilla out. That's what I want to hear.
It is,
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to advise my brother. I'm a vanilla farmer. The current price is around 60,000. So you cannot say
but what you are talking about, you don't know it. The other Honorable gives 200,000.
Let me inform you. The prices
you don't have information.
Wait a minute. Madam Speaker, what we know, the Ministry of Agriculture does not control prices of agricultural products. This is a liberalized economy. Since 1992, all the economy in agriculture was liberalized, including coffee. Coffee prices have been moving up and down. Now the coffee prices are ranging between 3,800 to 4,200 per kilogram of FHU. And these prices of vanilla, which was originally around 270, it is now 60,000. And nobody is being restricted from moving his vanilla and sell it wherever he wants. So that information you are giving us is wrong.
Okay,
Honorable members, you do have the people you represent.
Okay,
I also have my people I represent. I cannot come here to tell a lie to this parliament. Madam Speaker, it is a fact. If you want, you can send there anyone. People are forced to sell 50, when in Kasese they are buying 200,000. The Honorable member is here.
Okay, Honorable members, direct the Minister of Cooperatives to go to Katerera to meet the farmers. One, see if they are not organized, to organize them. Secondly, to advise them on the prices and the marketing of their products. Well, the minister should tell us, the Minister of Cooperatives should go there and tell us who the above is, who does not allow the Katerera farmers take their products. Can we have an answer by Thursday next week? Honorable Fungaro and then Muyanja. 2 minutes.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I stand here to raise an urgent matter of national importance. It's about flooding, threatening the landing sites of Obongi Ferry and the roads connected to the ferry. The flooding comes as a result of two things. One, the rising levels of the River Nile, as we are already aware about, rising waters of the lakes, in the Nile Valley, Victoria, Kyoga, Albert. But the biggest threat comes from the second aspect of the cause, That is the flooding of a stream, River Zoka, which has its confluence with the River Nile just near the ferry. We feel as a community that this problem can be prevented. We have raised this matter to Uganda National Roads Authority. We have discussed the same matter with the PS Minister of Works and with the Director for Ferries at Nira. But what has come as a disturbing thing to us is the response of the government is very, very poor. What do? That ferry is the lifeline of Obongi, the lifeline of the people of West Nile, where we have refugees and citizens. The World Food Program and other UN agencies serving the refugees use that ferry. Why should we allow a problem which can be prevented to continue and destroy the lives of people? This is the second time that area is threatened by floods, and yet we gave early warning to the Minister of Works. I remember, Right Honorable Speaker, you through this House gave money, emergency, to deal with issues of flooding. Where has this money gone? We are not seeing this action on the ground. I stand here, therefore, to request that the Ministry of Works and URA should urgently come on the ground. We members of Parliament and leaders of Obongi, plus the leaders of Ajumani, have mobilized the communities for a self-help response. We would like to work together with the government. We need the sand dikes to be constructed. We have bought 2,000 sacks with the contribution from the community. We would like the government to give us 3 tipper lorries. The youth will fill the sand and the stones. What is to be done should be assessed on the ground. The engineers who talk from Kampala, please, I request you, Honorable Speaker, through you, they should go to the ground and work with them. If the people are willing to work with the government, why doesn't the government come and work with the people? This is my prayer. Thank you.
Members, the Honour of Fungaro is requested to go and meet the Minister of Works so that they can work out a plan to go and join the population to improve the situation at the Obongi ferry. Honorable Muyanja, and then Waira Majegere. Muyanja.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker and Honorable colleagues. Honorable Speaker, the matter I'm raising is concerning Minister of Agriculture. When the peasants these days look at the sky and they see the blue clouds, it is really a sign that really they should be starting to prepare their gardens. Right, Honorable Speaker, last time and even in the past, the ministry has been giving out seeds through sub-counties and the districts. But now, whenever farmers try to request for seedlings, they tell them MPs are now the one in control, which may not be the case because, right, Honorable Speaker, even last time, we are given only 1 ton. How can someone distribute 1 ton to over 10 sub-counties or 20? Our humble request that this time, let the Minister of Agriculture start distributing in time to avoid the last experience of the last season when we received maize seedlings and beans when it was almost too late for the farmers to plant. I thank you.
The Minister of Agriculture is requested to address that issue and ensure that the seeds are sent in time to the farmers for the new planting season. If you could update us by next Thursday on his plans for that distribution. Honorable Waira.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this chance. I have 2 related matters of national importance. Number 1 is that before the lockdown, about 50% of the border riders had acquired the loans from their respective circles and other financial institutions. Madam Speaker, after the lockdown, and these borders couldn't operate as normal, they couldn't pay back the monthly loans. They have been paying an average of 60,000 per month. But after the lockdown, they couldn't manage. but they are being arrested left and right. So, Madam Speaker, my prayer is that one, that they shouldn't be arrested in relation to payment of these loans until normal resumption of their duties. Number two, that the interest be scrapped from March when the lockdown was announced up to the time the lockdown will be lifted. Number three, that the loans be stayed from March until the situation is normal for them to operate. Equally, Madam Speaker, the other issue is about the business community, which got money from money lenders. Madam Speaker, about a big percentage of business community got money from money lenders. And Madam Speaker and colleagues, you are aware that the situation is not normal. So these people are being arrested. Their security collaterals are being sold. Madam Speaker, the prayer is that no one should be arrested in relation to payment of these loans. Number two, that no person's collateral security should be sold until the situation is normal. Number three, the interest should be scrapped from March 2020 until we see that the situation, the economic situation is okay. And lastly, number four, Madam Speaker, that these loans should be stayed or spread until the normal resumption of business. I beg it from Madam Speaker.
I think that can only be answered by the Minister of Finance. The issues of loans, interest rates, staying or not staying, I don't know what you have to say about it.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker and honorable colleagues. In a bid to ease the situation of the business community and also to help our economy, there are a number of measures that were announced by His Excellency the President, and subsequently we also followed up and announced them in the budget. One of them was to defer payment of loan installments by people who had borrowed from banks and other financial institutions for a period of 3 months. And that order is still on. The Bank of Uganda followed up to issue an instruction to the commercial institutions, and we are also working with the Microfinance Support Center and other the Uganda Microfinance Center on what? So, we are working with Uganda.
We are receiving a response to a problem.
Uganda Microfinance Regulatory Authority, which handles the smaller microfinance and money lenders, to also issue an instrument that will allow these people who had borrowed money from money lenders and also microfinance support centers to give them some relief of some period until the situation normalizes. So all those that fall into microfinance, money lenders, we are going to also handle them the way we did with commercial banks.
Honourable Minister, I think I would be happy if you tabled here a copy of that instruction from the Bank of Uganda so that we can take them to our villages, so that we can show them. They can use that to get protection.
The other one was
Thank you, Right Honourable Minister, the Minister, for giving me opportunity. Right Honourable Speaker, I get
a little bit disturbed. How many times government comes here and is talking about business community, is concentrating so much on COVID only, and yet we very well know how floods are ravaging the country. We have fishermen across Uganda who are suffering because of floods, but nobody is talking about them, how they are going to get them out of the situation they are going through. What measures does government have on issues of fishing gears? What waivers are you going to give to the fishing communities in Uganda? We need to know that.
Madam Speaker, I think my colleague was raising a point of national importance. A quick one, so that I think you have to give some guidance on how it's going to be handled. On the issue of issues to do with taxes, Madam Speaker, we have already presented the tax bills that will help the business community, and they are being handled by the Committee of Finance. So we are really working long and hard to ensure that we help our business community and all Ugandans who are going through some difficult times until that time when the situation normalizes.
Honorable Minister, one of the bills we worked on has been returned by the President. One of those which are supposed to relieve landlords on rental income, the President returned it. Yes.
Yeah, Madam Speaker, the President returned the bill with some justification and reasons, which I think the committee will look at, and the House we again revisit it and see. But there are others to do with pay as you earn. There are others to do with penalties of paying taxes and interest. I think there are good measures that were proposed which will help the business community. Thank you, Madam.
Honourable Minister, sorry, when you started to speak about these issues, it reminded me about a petition I received today from the saloon operators who equally have problems, and they say that instead of locking them up, can you guide them on how to operate in a healthy manner? Because they say for them, already they use sterilizers, already they had masks before even the lockdown. They say they were boiling everything that they use. So they say, can you help us work? But also, they want to know the stimulus package, how do they access it? No one has come to tell us that you apply here in this bank or the other. You are talking generalities, you and the Minister of Finance. In generalities, people want to know, how can I come from Kidera and get money? How can I come from Kitgum and access that money? That's what they want to know.
Madam Speaker, on issues of how to further release the lockdown, including saloons and some issues with arcade, the National Task Force is analyzing them, and very soon we shall inform the country on the way forward. But on the issue of accessing money from UDC, which we have allocated, the 1 trillion Microfinance Support Center, Madam Speaker, I beg that you give us time next week. We come and address the House on this subject and inform the country on how to handle this. Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Speaker, I wanted to inform the Minister that while the President communicated the country that he was going to give a relief to these much affected players in business, microfinance institutions, financial institutions have gone ahead to reschedule the loans, but factoring in the interest. And the one honorable member was raising an issue concerning these players in business who have been affected and who cannot move ahead an inch. How do you factor in interest and you move it forward as if you are solving the problem? Where are they going to get this money? Which means they are going to sell the whole thing, the whole property they have been having in the name of rescheduling. Can you clarify how government is going to guide the financial institutions, how to deal with these borders and the women who are dealing in the markets who are suffering with these loans?
Madam Speaker, on the issue of scheduling of loans, the central bank, the Bank of Uganda, was very clear. We have requested the commercial banks to reschedule these loans, and in rescheduling the loans, there is no interest on the amount that is rescheduled. And as the, yes, if it is there, as the Right Honorable Speaker has requested, we shall come here with the instrument from the Bank of Uganda to clarify that. And if it's not, it's there, please, commercial banks, you are listening to us, that's not right, and stop that. Thank you.
Item 3.1. 3.1. Item 3.1.
Item 3.1 on the order paper. Statement by Minister on the deplorable condition of Busia COVID-19 quarantine center, characterized by inadequate food and poor sanitation.
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, indeed the situation, of course, is not expected by anybody, but we found ourselves in such a situation like any other country in the world. The Prime Minister is aware of this requirement, and he asked me to come and inform the Parliament that the Minister of Health will come on Thursday with all these information required to answer on behalf of the Prime Minister. That is the information I want to inform you, Madam Speaker.
Okay, Prime Minister, we shall wait for Thursday, but note that it is now 1 month since we last got an update from the government on the COVID. It's now 1 month. Item 3.2. 3.2.
Item 3.2. Statement by Minister on the verification of the beneficiaries of the Social Assistance Grant for Empowerment, SAGE.
Minister of Agenda.
Right Honorable Speaker and Honorable Members, I thank you for the opportunity accorded to me to clarify on the concern raised by Honorable Kamateka Jova, woman member of Parliament, Mitoma District, which she raised at the 11th sitting of the first meeting of this session, Tuesday the 30th June. The issue raised by Honorable Kamateka Jova was in regard to the ongoing verification and enrollment of beneficiaries of the Social Assistance Grants for Empowerment, abbreviated as SAGE, under the national rollout of the program. Her concern was that the ministry seems to be focusing on deleting the names of the deceased beneficiaries without enrolling new eligible ones. That's how we construed her issue to be, because she never gave details. Right Honorable Speaker, allow me to give this House a brief background of the SAGE program so that we can put the response into proper context. It would also be beneficial for members to understand the whole program, since now we are doing universal rollout. You will recall, Madam Speaker and honorable colleagues, that during the period 2010-2015, the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development piloted the Senior Citizens Grant in 15 districts. These were Amudat, Apache, Kabiramaido, Katakwi, Chiboga, Kole, Chankwanzi, Chegegwa, Chenjojo, Moroto, Nakapiripirit, Napak, Nebi, Yumbe, and Zombo. Approximately 123,000 older persons were covered in the initial pilot phase. The program targeted older persons 65 years and above for the rest of the country, and 60 in the case of Karamoja. Each benefiting older person received a monthly grant of Uganda shilling 25,000. The grant registered a positive impact not only on the welfare of the older persons and their immediate family members, but also on the local economies. Following the successful implementation of the pilot, which was phase 1, government in August 2016 took a decision to roll out the grants in a phased manner to an additional 40 districts over a period of 5 years from financial year 2015-16 to financial year 2019-20. Under this phase, Madam Speaker, the oldest 100 older persons per sub-county were enrolled on the program. The phased rollout started with 20 districts in financial year 2015-2016 and subsequently covered 5 new districts. And subsequently 5 new districts were added every year over a 4-year period as follows. In the financial year 2015-16, Kabong, Abim, Kotido, Koboko, Gulu, Pade, Agago, Lamo, Amolata, Parisa, Amuria, Kwen, Namayingo, Mayuge, Kamui, Kayunga, Nakasongora, Chivare, Kisoro, and Wundubujo were added. Financial year 2016-17, Kitugum, Nakaseke, Kabale, Bujiri, and Amur were added. 2017-2018, Dokolo, Sembabure, Kasese, Shema, and Mubende, and 2018-19, Aleptong, Ajumani, Otuke, Moyo, and Kumi were added. Great Honorable Speaker and Honorable Members, by close of financial year 2018-19, the Ministry had rolled out the grants to 64 districts covering over 167,000 older persons. Madam Speaker, in November 2018, government approved the national rollout of the Senior Citizens Grant to cover the balance of 71 districts, which were not on the program, starting in financial year 2019 to 2020. The decision was to cover older persons from 80 years and above in the new districts, while maintaining the older persons who were already on the program, even if they are below the age 80. The age was adjusted to cater for those critically in advanced age and reach all of them. And it was because of lack of enough funds to sustain the 65 initial bracket. Right Honorable Speaker, the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development is implementing the national rollout in all the districts beginning financial 2019-2020. This exercise involves verification, registration, enrollment, and payment of eligible beneficiaries. In financial year 2019-2020, Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development released funds for payment of beneficiaries in the new districts for 6 months. That's January to June 2020. The payment was launched by His Excellency the President on 8th March 2020 in Mbale during the International Women's Day celebrations. The payments, Madam Speaker, although delayed by the COVID-19 outbreak, lockdown restrictions, is now going on in all the districts. All those areas are being paid. Right Honorable Speaker, I will now explain the process of verification, registration, enrollment, and payment of eligible beneficiaries as follows. Madam Speaker, the older persons who benefit from the SAGE are targeted. They are selected using data from Nira. The lists of targeted potential beneficiaries are shared with the local governments. Parish chiefs, town agents, ward administrators are charged with the responsibility of verifying the targeted potential beneficiaries to capture the status of each beneficiary on the verification lists. All the verified senior citizens who meet the requirements are then registered and enrolled and subsequently paid by the approved payment service providers who are currently Postbank Uganda and Centenary Bank. The eligibility criteria to be met by all beneficiaries of the program includes 1 being a Ugandan citizen, aged 80 years and above, not benefiting from a public service pension, and should be registered with the National Identification Registration Authority, Nira. Right Honorable Speaker, the reason for emphasizing registration with Nira is that Nira is the agency of government that is maintaining the National Civil Registry in Uganda. Nira offers the program authentic national ID information with the national identification number as a unique identifier of each beneficiary. This eliminates the possibility of double dipping or double payment and ghost beneficiaries. It therefore follows that any person who is not on the Nira register will not be picked by the SAGE system. For the ongoing payments, the Ministry obtained data from Nira as at January 2020. That means that anybody who registered with Nira after then is not on the SAGE list and will have to be reconciled later. In addition, the Ministry has put in place mechanisms of reporting death so that people who are deceased are exited from the program. Right Honorable Speaker, this is a good practice, we believe, since timely deletion of the dead from the SAGE list enables the program to keep a clean payroll free of ghost beneficiaries. Madam Speaker and honorable colleagues, we are cognizant of the fact some eligible older persons who register with Nira may miss out on the payroll. This is commonly occasioned by the following scenarios. Scenario one, older persons who registered and entered the Nira register after the program has extracted data from Nira for targeting and processing payments. Madam Speaker, as already said in this response, the ongoing payments are based on data obtained from Nira as at January 2020. That means that anybody registered with Nira after that date is not on the current SAGE list, therefore not captured in the current payment cycle. It will be for follow-up after. Older persons of the right age but have lost or have not picked their IDs from Nira. This category of older persons will appear on both the Nira register and SAGE list. However, since they don't have national IDs to confirm their identity, we require that they provide any other form of valid identification to confirm their identity that should tally with the details on the Nira register before they are paid. Madam Speaker, it is important that this due diligence is done to avoid paying wrong people. Scenario 3 that can cause people to not be on the payroll, older persons who are 80 years and above, but their dates of birth are wrongly captured on the Nira register. Madam Speaker, we have older persons who do not know their dates of birth. Some of these people were mistakenly given lower ages and therefore do not appear on the Nira register for those aged 80 plus. As a result, they are left out under SAGE. Scenario 4, Madam Speaker, older persons who did not register for the national ID, Honorable Speaker, older persons who missed registration for the national ID card and therefore are not on the Nira register and subsequently not on the SAGE list of beneficiaries. Madam Speaker and honorable colleagues, the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development is undertaking measures to address the above challenges to ensure that a mop-up exercise that enables all the eligible beneficiaries to be enrolled and paid under the program is done as soon as possible. Action taken so far are as follows, Madam Speaker. 1, the Ministry has entered a memorandum of understanding with Nira on access of information from Nira database as well as prioritization of the handling of older persons under SAGE. The Ministry has written to Nira to request for the updated information on Nira register to date. This will bring on board all those older persons who registered after January 2020 for inclusion on the payroll. And 3, the Ministry is working with the district local governments and the National Council for Older Persons to put in place a referral mechanism to support the registration of older persons who missed earlier registration exercise by Nira or have applied to replace lost IDs or correct errors on their IDs that may affect their age bracket or have not collected their IDs from Nira. Madam Speaker, the Ministry has been running announcements on various public media to inform and encourage eligible older persons on how they can be helped to access the SAGE grants. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, I would like to thank you for allowing me to respond to the concern raised by Honorable Jova Kamateka. I wish to appeal to members of Parliament to guide the older persons to link up with the focal point persons at the district level for any assistance they may require regarding payments under SAGE. Madam Speaker, I beg to submit and allow me to add that next week on the 15th, we shall be launching rollout in Lango And from there, we shall be in Ankole, we've been in Fort Portal. My colleague, the Minister of State, was in Bukomansimbi. So I want to let colleagues know that we shall be in your sub-regions to ensure that the rollout is complete. I beg to submit, Madam Speaker.
No, Joffa, supplementary? No, she's not here. Next item, 3.3. 3.3.
Item 3.3, statement on the disbursement of funds appropriated for emergency repairs of roads afflicted by floods and other disasters.
Where is the Minister of Finance? He has gone. Three, four.
Item 3.4, statement on the plight of volunteer health workers at Busia Health Center 4 and the plans to avail an ambulance for the hospital.
Minister of Health? Not here. When she comes to speak on item 3.1, she'll also speak on item 3.4. Let's go to 3.5.
Item 3.5, on the alleged use of government property on the disputed land at Chiwula Central Forest Reserve, Kayunga District.
Minister of Agriculture? Minister of Agriculture? Well, on item 3.5.
Right Honorable, I got your instructions to answer that question, but Right Honorable, it was only yesterday. Allow me to come back on Thursday to give a correct version of what is happening in that forest.
So your counterpart was here. That's it.
Yes, he was here, but I was up country, Right Honorable, so I got the information yesterday, and I'm working on it, because the one who was here was a minister for animal resources, so he had it to request me to answer that question.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable, it is coming to over 4 months when I last raised this matter on the floor of Parliament, and you assigned different ministers to intervene and report back to Parliament on action so far taken to stop the ongoing destruction of Chiwula Forest Central Reserve. Right Honorable, the Minister for Agriculture is one of them, and the Minister of State was here last week on Thursday when he actually asked for time to go and visit the locus and report back on the instruction you had issued for him to be able to remove those tractors from the disputed land. Right Honorable, in a similar manner, you also instruct the Minister for Environment to do the same thing, but it's unfortunate to report, Right Honorable, that both ministers have not labored to even put in action what you instructed them to do. They have not visited the locus, they have not taken action, and degradation is ongoing, and I'm not getting responses from them because I have done all efforts to contact them to know what exactly they are about to do regarding the directive you issued, but none of them is forthcoming, Right Honorable, to effect the execution of the directives that you issued. Right Honorable, in that order,
since the ministers don't treat this manner, they don't regard it with the urgency it deserves. Right Honorable, I do request that you allow us, because we don't want to take the law in our hands. We would demonstrate, we would riot against this, but we decided to adopt the civil way of handling such issues. And Right Honorable, now I request humbly, because this Parliament has the mandate to gazette forests and has the mandate to degazette. And according to the records that we have, none of these 3 forests, one of them has gone, it's already a sugarcane plantation. The second one that I'm vying to protect, that is threatened. Right Honorable, I have indulged Parliament, but nothing is being done. It's upon that, Right Honorable, that I request that you take action, because the ministers, I don't know whether they fear the mafias involved in this, but they are not forthcoming to effect the instructions that you issued as you, the Right Honorable Speaker.
Honourable members, I'll give my ruling on that tomorrow. Let's go to item 4.
Much obliged, Right Honorable.
Item 4 on the order paper, motion for adoption of the report of the Committee on Defence and Internal Affairs on the petition and oversight visits on operations of the National Identification and Registration Authority, Nira.
Now, last Thursday, we instructed the Prime Minister to ensure that the Minister of Internal Affairs is here. Are they here? Okay, please present.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker and honourable colleagues. I want to take this opportunity to thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, for tasking the Committee of Defence and Internal Affairs to go and carry out a business which was presented to you in a form of a petition, and we also had to use the same opportunity to carry out our oversight role on the activities of Nira. Right Honourable Speaker, this report was written last year, and we have been on order paper for some time. Nevertheless, it remains a property of this Parliament, and therefore I'm standing here on behalf of the committee to present it to this House. Introduction. Pursuant to the Article 90 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda and Rule 185 of the Rules of Procedure of Parliament, the Committee on Defence and Internal Affairs conducted an oversight visit in October 2018 to appraise the learners project through which the National Identification Registration Authority seeks to register all learners in the country aged between 5 and 16 years. Covered the districts of Amratal, Lira, Gulu, Amulu, and Kiriandongo. Background to this, the National Identification and Registration Authority was established by the Registration of Persons Act 2015. Its principal mandate and responsibility is to create, manage, maintain, and operationalize the National Identification Register. Nira is expected to achieve this mandate by, among others, registering all citizens of Uganda, registering non-citizens who are lawful residents in Uganda, assigning a national identification number for all registered persons, and assigning national identification cards and alien identification cards to all registered persons, including refugees. During a retreat of government ministers and permanent secretaries in February 2017 in Chankwanz, a resolution was passed to operationalize the idea of the Learners Project, whose aim was to register all learners in the country aged between 5 and 16 years. The project was officially commenced in May 2017 and was expected to run until August 2018, but encountered challenges, and extension was sought up to December 2017. Guided by Article 90, subsection 3, paragraph A of the Constitution, the committee convened meetings in September 2018 and interacted with officials from Nira with an intention of finding a lasting solution to the issues that have affected the performance of the authority, in particular the Learners Project. Among the contentious issues were: 1, the composition of the board of directors, who are very busy with demanding schedules from their substantive offices of appointment and had left a leadership gap in the board of Nira. 2, implementation of the staff structure. 3, gross irregularities in the functions of Nira by the executive director. And 4, the need to construct a home for Nira. A brief was presented to the committee on the operations of Nira, the status of the Learners Project, and the general challenges faced by the authority. The committee resolved to undertake an oversight visit to the field offices in northern Uganda to ascertain the status of the Learners Project, to interact with the officers who facilitated the registration of learners who are disgruntled and have petitioned the Parliament. They did petition Parliament at that time, and that is why we had to visit those various offices. And the extent of implementation of the recommendations Parliament passed in March 2018. The committee had received a copy of the letter written by the Right Honourable Speaker to the Minister of Internal Affairs, asking for an explanation regarding the implementation of recommendations made by the committee in March 2018. Attached is the Speaker's letter, where copies of petitions from almost all over the country. The petitions mainly came from the district registration officers, the assistant district registration officers, the district information technology officers, enrollment officers, and concerned citizens protesting the way the Learners Project was conducted and poor facilitation for such a hectic exercise. The committee was also interested in ascertaining the conditions under which Nira officers operate and staffing at the different levels. We had a methodology, and during the visit, we interacted with the members of the district coordination committee, who included resident district commissioners, the chief administrative officers.
That one, the methodology members can read.
Okay.
Go to the other areas.
I go to the findings. Others you can read. A comparative review of the committee's previous findings in March 2018 and October 2018 revealed that most of the challenges that existed during the first oversight visit still persisted, namely inadequate equipment, poor coordination between Nira staff and the district coordination committee members, limited facilitation, limited office accommodation, unbalanced and unfavorable payment structures, inadequate understanding of Nira activities and services by the local communities, and a considerable disparity between the approved budget and the overall performance of the project. Performance of registration of the learners project. Right Honorable Speaker and members, the committee observed that much as funds were injected into the learners project with a reported 9.6 million pupils registered out of the projected 10 million, there is still a big number of pupils who are not yet registered. This is because the initial registration exercise excluded some schools in hard-to-reach areas and some private schools, which Nira attributed to insufficient funds for the registration exercise. The committee notes that an accurate projection of the magnitude of the unregistered learners will require liaison with the Ministry of Education and Sports. The committee further notes that additional funding would be required to facilitate another phase of registration of the pupils who are not covered in the previous phases. The committee further established that funds for project activities during the learners project were not released in time. This caused a setback in beating deadlines of activities that had been budgeted for by regional officers and approved by officials at Nira headquarters. This affected implementation of planned activities, and the officers were left with no option but to conduct the activities, incurring debts from service providers in order to serve the public. Right Honourable Speaker and members, the committee further established that some of the officers still demand for a refund from the authority. The affected officers resorted to personal payments to the service providers, expecting that the authority would reimburse them. A year later, this has not been honored by Nira. The committee was informed that a total of 1.2 billion was used by the field registration officers and the details, but so far Nira had reimbursed 60%, remaining to clear the 40% after an internal audit has been inspected to ascertain the authenticity of the claim. This, however, contravenes Section 79, subsection 1, paragraph M of the Public Finance Management Act 2015, which stipulates that no officer should incur unauthorized commitments. The committee also learned that payments of remuneration and officer allowances, which is impressed in brackets, to the Nira staff are inconsistently availed and mainly paid in arrears. This has affected the operations in the regional and district offices. The committee further established the following. It is impossible to register children born as a result of war activities, children with a single parents, and those who do not have parents because their parents' identification numbers are a prerequisite. The committee also noted another issue as a section of people living in Kiriandongo refugee settlement camp were registered and others were not. We also established that child-headed families are not featuring anywhere in the program of Nira registration. And lastly, we also found out that there was a big challenge in registering persons without fingers. Recommendation. The committee recommends Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development and Minister of Internal Affairs that they should ensure that the project of such nature should always have planned detailed budget so as to avoid under budgeting and untimely release of operational funds. We also recommend that Ministry of Internal Affairs and Nira should find alternatives for registering children from child-headed families, children without parents, and children with single parents, and of course those ones with also who are without fingers. 5.2, we did assess the status of office accommodation at district offices. Right Honourable Speaker and members, the committee observed that all NIRA offices visited lacked adequate accommodation. They all share offices with either the Electoral Commission or housed in the district headquarter offices, which is limiting and has affected operations of NIRA. The committee was informed that during the peak of the electoral season, like this one, NIRA officers are thrown out until the Electoral Commission activities are concluded. The committee further observed that some NIRA offices were housed in corridors and in very tiny rooms, while other officers had their tables outside on the veranda. This is not only embarrassing to the government as the employer, but also affects the morale for work by the officers. The equipment used in the registration of persons is expensive and delicate in nature. The information stored is sensitive. All this require organized environment for safe custody. This calls for urgent permanent homes for NIRA activities, as the equipment and the information stored are at a risk of being stolen or tampered with. In the same vein, NIRA headquarter offices is accommodated in the premises of Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs at a cost of 56 million shillings per month. This also requires urgent attention, as it is on the higher side and costly for the government. A review of NIRA's investment plan that relates to accommodation estimates Uganda shillings 12 billion only was required to enable NIRA have decent office headquarters. The committee observed that Uganda Police Force has vacant land of about 140 acres, and that was suitable for NIRA head office to be given the strategic security necessary for NIRA. We came up with recommendations on that. We said Uganda Police should give out some of the 140 acres of land in Naguru to NIRA for construction of permanent offices. And number two, we said we recommend that Parliament should appropriate more funds to the authority to enable the acquisition of permanent offices to house the activities in the phased manner. This is projected to, in turn, address the issue of limited office space, stock accommodation, and improve delivery of services to the public. We did carry out investigations into the claims of the numerous petitioners. Right Honourable Speaker and members, the committee engaged the district information and technology officers and established that they have been working in interim positions for the authority since 2014 and are paid a meager Uganda shillings 945,000, which is very little in comparison to the tasks assigned to them. Further to this, these officers are not on the NIRA approved structure and are presently working without appointment letters. The approved structure has assistant registration officers, AROs, who are directed under the supervision of the DITOs, and yet they earn Uganda shillings 1.8 million. The discrepancy in remuneration between these two positions has further caused disgruntlement and uncertainty to the district information and technology officers. And the committee believes that this is the reason they have been petitioning Parliament for a remedy. A copy of the letter from the Right Honourable Speaker, as said, was attached. The committee observed that the details have held office since the National Security Information System project in 2014. That gave birth to the National Identification and Registration Authority in May 2015. To date, but the authority failed to absorb them in the new structure. Right Honourable Speaker and members, the committee further established that most of the details endured the harsh conditions of working for low pay, without any recruitment, without any allowances in the anticipation that they would be considered for the massive recruitment to fill up Nira vacancies in the approved structure. One of the details intimated to the committee that he acts as a district registration officer but only earns 945. He sat for interviews to be upgraded to a district registration officer, passed, but he has never been appointed. This has led to frustration of the details and has resulted into a general laxity in service delivery. The committee further observed most of the petitions to the Parliament were filled by former enrolled officers and it was who accused the authority of holding on to their payments or delayed it. The previous inquiry had ascertained that most of these payments were effected using mobile money, which in itself is irregular as a means of paying salaries. Recommendation. The committee recommends that a revision of the current allowance structure of the details should match the current economic environment and cost of living in the country. We also recommend that district information and technology officers who have the required qualifications and have acted for a period of 6 months and above should be absorbed in Nira service as assistant registration officers. We also recommended that for future projects, Nira should fully prepare for implementation of these activities and only roll out when fully certain that sufficient resources in terms of human resource, equipment, and transportation are available to sustain the project in the different areas where the projects are being implemented. Right Honourable Speaker, there is a 5-staff structure at the district. So, honourable members, the committee also observed that of the approved structure of 5 staff in every district office, some districts have got 2 staff and others 1. This has strained on the posted officers, leading to failure to achieve the set targets. The workload has caused a strain on the existing staff who have to work extra hours to meet the needs of the public. The committee was informed that some officers serve 2 districts. A case in point was the Gulu office that serves both Gulu and Omoro districts. The committee observed that Nira head office faces a serious problem of understaffing, and in most cases, staffs were performing more than 1 job, hence affecting the efficiency and effective service delivery. The committee recommended that Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Ministry of Public Service, and the Ministry of Internal Affairs should avail funds to the authority for recruitment. We also recommend that district information technology officers should be included on the approved Nira structure. We also recommended that Nira should address the concerns of the district information and technology officers by revising the remuneration paid out to them to match the revised salary structure in the authority. Right Honourable Speaker, in implementing the resolution on registration of learners project, we carried out an oversight visit in the districts of Kampala, Wakiso, and Entebbe after the commencement of the project. Following negative reports that awashed the print media regarding the project, a report was presented in March 2018 and was adopted by the Olo House, and resolutions were sent to the Office of the Prime Minister. However, to date, they have not been implemented. A copy of the resolutions of that is also attached. We do recommend as a committee that the Office of the Prime Minister should coordinate the implementation of the parliamentary resolutions on the registration of learners project. The general operations of Nira. Right Honourable Speaker and members, the committee held meetings with and interacted with Nira officials on matters pertaining to the authority and observed that the board of directors occupy other pre-existing busy offices that demand most of their time away from Nira and very often fail to make quorum during important meetings where substantial resolutions are taken, implying that they cannot effectively carry out the body's oversight function. The committee noted that some important decisions pertaining to the authority had been taken without a substantive meeting taking place. The committee further observed that the positions of body chairperson and body secretary are still vacant, and this has affected the operation of Nira. Recommendations. Nira should ensure that the board secretary is recruited immediately. Minister of Finance, Minister of Internal Affairs, and the Nira executive should ensure that the chairperson of the board is appointed. We also recommend that representatives of the board should not necessarily be the principal executives of the agencies, but rather any other person at the level of a commissioner of the entitled agency can be a board member. This would ensure effective oversight of the authority. B, need to be self-reliant. Right Honourable Speaker and members, the committee further observed that the authority does not charge any fee upon sharing information with the ministries, departments, agencies, and the other private companies, notably the telecommunication companies. As a plan to become self-reliant in terms of funding, Nira should stipulate or charge a specific fee upon sharing information with the various MDAs and private companies. The laxity to levy such fees denies government the non-tax revenue, and the authority would be able to generate funds that would help in the acquisition of their own home. We do recommend that a matter of urgency, Nira should start levying a fee on the ministries, departments, and agencies, plus the telecom companies that benefit from the information shared by Nira. In so doing, government would also realize NTR. C, number of approved service points for Nira operations. The committee further observed that the approved service points for Nira across the country are 123, out of which 117 for districts and 5 for the 5 Kampala divisions. These service points are constant regardless of the increase in the number of districts. In view of the government policy of taking services nearer to the people, it would be logical that the service points are adjusted to match the number of districts. The committee noted that there is need for Nira to expand its operations in the newly created districts and municipalities. We came up with recommendations that Nira should service these points by increasing to match the number of districts in the country, to date, subject to review in the case of further increment. General recommendations. Like in the earlier report, the challenges of Nira seem to be increasing rather than reducing. The committee therefore reiterates some of the recommendations that: 1, the Auditor General should conduct a forensic audit on the entire learners project, including the procurement processes, methods of recruitment, level of facilitation, and the mode of payment to the field staff. 2, the remuneration of implementers of Nira activities should be in tandem with the prevailing economic situation, and the structures should be in place to guide the payment of these beneficiaries. 3, due to the sensitivity of the mandate of Nira, Cabinet should review the decision taken to streamline the authority in the mother ministry, which is Ministry of Internal Affairs. In conclusion, Right Honourable Speaker and members, more needs to be done by government to address the emerging issues and challenges to Nira, and the successful management of Nira as an authority and its activities, among which is the Learners Project, requires a combination of strategies, including but not limited to strengthening the legal framework, increased monitoring and evaluation of these activities by Parliament, regular audits by the Office of the Auditor General, increased appropriation of funds, as well as sensitization of the public on Nira activities, and finally, improving the welfare of the staff in the authority as highlighted in this report, so as to improve the operations of Nira. Right Honourable Speaker and honourable members, allow me to appreciate the contribution of members of the Committee on Defence and Internal Affairs and the technical staffs in the production of this report, and I pray that the report of the Committee on Defence and Internal Affairs on the petition and the oversight visits on operations of the Nira be considered by this House, and recommendations therein be adopted. I beg to move, Right Honourable Speaker and honourable colleagues.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair and members of the Committee on Defence and Internal Affairs, for that comprehensive report, which has been signed by the minimum number of members. I want to see if there are any comments, but first I wanted to know how come that a government ministry can charge a government department rent? 56 million shillings a month?
Yes, 56 million shillings is paid by Nira in form of rent. And that one was an issue to our committee, and when we tried to investigate, nobody could come up with an appropriate answer as to why. And that's why we're also saying that Nira, in order to stand on her own, the services provided to these MDAs and private companies, especially the telecom companies, should also be charged. And I hear that these services are being passed on to the Electoral Commission, they are being passed on to police and all other agencies freely. And yet here, we are losing money to a tune of 56 million shillings in form of rent. Right Honorable Speaker, I don't think it is very proper to charge yourself on your own expense, yet you are performing the same duty to serve the people of Uganda.
Did you look at the agreement? Did you see a copy of the agreement?
They couldn't submit because we even wanted to know where that money goes. The person who is paid to. And of course, you know the challenges which we have enumerated in this report with the executive director of that Nira. So many inefficiencies in that Nira, to the extent that even these children who were registered have never gotten their IDs. So there is a lot to be desired. Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Any comments? Any comments, Honorable?
Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay a copy of the report.
Okay, Honorable Ogwal, Sengendo, Hirak, Amuru, then Kaviruka. Is that Babadiri or Basemera? Okay. Okay. 2 minutes, please. We have some other urgent work. 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Let me straight away go to the charging of fees. Maybe well known to all. At the beginning, all the citizens were not charged. But now you want to start charging a fee on that. I think it will be a bit unfair. Otherwise, the report is very good. And I want to tell you that last year when we went for UNA, the kind of fee they were charging on our people, Ugandans abroad, was just too much. If you have a family of 5, then you need like $2,000 to register, which is very bad. And when I shared with the Prime Minister said it was unfair to those people. I do not know if that fee can be, if it should be there, then it should be regulated properly. But otherwise, that was very, very unfair to our citizens out of the country. And I have not heard it in the report about those in diaspora. But they are charging very exorbitant fees to those people. And for our people who are upcountry, sometimes this ID, actually, they get lost. And when they get lost, replacing can take you forever. It can take you even 4 or 5 years. Some other people in my district have just been asking, please, we need our ID, we need our ID. And in very many places, if you go, they ask you for your ID. So I do not know if they can also try to see how to speed up the process. When we ask for decentralization, it was said that it is only here in Kampala that they have the equipments. I do not know how expensive these equipments are, that we cannot help our people better. Some disabled people have to struggle to come to Kampala when they need replacement. So this should be taken into consideration instead of, instead of asking everybody to come to the center. We need to decentralize, even if it is not in very many locations. Maybe North can have one, West can have, and East can have, and then we have this one of the Central. There are very many issues with this Nira, but let me leave space for others also to contribute. But otherwise, even in schools, as it has been noted by the committee, it has not been fair to our children. We need, the children who are in private schools are children of Uganda. So they all need to be considered. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, members, this report arose from a petition relating to the learners. What you are saying is important, and we need to address it, but let's first focus on the issues raised in the petition and the findings. Unaweza 2 minutes, I call 2 minutes, Lucy Akelo 2 minutes, then we go to Kaberuka, and then Vasemera.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Engineer and
Madam Speaker.
I've seen Nabila also.
Madam Speaker, the issue of students who were registered by Nira, because it was a process that was announced, and indeed many students across the country were registered, because, Madam Speaker, having a national identity card is a human right, because we have seen in many situations where your failure to have an identification may cost you heavily, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we were told, after pressurizing so much from the Nira offices, others were informing us that that process, which registered students across the country in various schools, the cameras were faulty. I don't know whether the committee was privy to that information, that they were saying that they could not process the identity cards for our children because the cameras were faulty. And yet, they had spent a lot, even on the team that was registering, and even on the 40 cameras. But as we talk now, Madam Speaker, many who were registered cannot access these identity cards. And finally, Madam Speaker, I think it is really very unfair, because we all know that without having a national identity card, and we know that at any one time you can lose it, how can we make it a little bit faster of replacing an identity card? Because there are institutions where even a duplicate is not entertained. Madam Speaker, we would request that the process of replacing a lost identity card is really quickened, and also so that many Ugandans can access those identity cards, because they are very important. Wherever they go, they demand them. Madam Speaker, I thank you very much.
I call 2 minutes, Lucy Akelo 2 minutes, Kaberuka 2 minutes, Vasemera 2 minutes, Nagai, then Otieno, and Engineer Nakati.
Madam Speaker, I take this time to thank the committee for the work well done. Madam Speaker, I happen to have about 2 children who registered at school in the process of the registration by Nira. And unfortunately, by now, they have never gotten their identity card. And in this period when there is these studies online and all that, they wanted even to get the lines for the phones, they can't get it. Even when you want to open accounts, some banks will not accept you to do it. Madam Speaker, you know that many children, after registering, they have even turned 18 years. And they were eligible to vote, but they were unable to even register because of this process that were faulted at the schools. And unfortunately, this is a situation where resources has been lost. And someone should be accountable for the resources lost. And I think we should have proposed something serious than just those proposals. There must be accountability for the resources that were wasted at this period. And Madam Speaker, when you go to Kololo, 4 at night, people are already lining up
for Nira services. We have regional offices which should be doing some of the services that are done in Kampala. There are some Ugandans who have never traveled to Kampala. How will they replace their identity card? How will they register those who have not yet registered? I think this is a serious concern that must be taken serious by this parliament. Thank you very much.
But if you want to make proposal, you should make. Don't just say you have not made it strong. If you have something strong, you propose. I think it was Sophie, I think it was Santa. I think it was Santa. I say Santa, it was Santa, then Kaberuka, Vasemera, Onzima, then Nagai, Otieno, Engineer, Karunji.
Thank you,
No, they are both in blue, so I'm a bit. Both of you are in blue.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Allow me to thank the committee for coming with this report. Right Honorable Speaker, I think the issue of national ID deserves a priority in this country, given the importance that it carries. Right Honorable Speaker, allow me comment on the Learners Project. There are so many students out there, Right Honorable Speaker, who registered but did not get their IDs. Madam Speaker, when these students were being registered, they asked the number of their parents. But I wonder how Nira could not follow these students through their parents. So for me, Right Honorable Speaker, I want to request that the registration of learners be started afresh, because so many students, some of them are now even at the universities, some of them want these IDs for carrying out very many activities. Madam Speaker, there are people who need to look for jobs, but they don't have IDs. Madam Speaker, even the SAGE program for the older persons, without ID, the minister has just presented a statement before Parliament, they cannot be registered. So many people are missing, but most important is this learner. Madam Speaker, it's unfortunate that I don't see the minister in charge of finance, because this Parliament gave money for this project. And I would have loved the Minister of Finance to tell us what happened to the money, because there was that complaint of the money being released late, and the money was not even enough. So as Parliament, I think, Madam Speaker, we have to pronounce ourselves on this, because these are our children. And if we don't speak for them, Madam Speaker, no one will speak for them. Then, too, Madam Speaker, the report was talking about charging other government agencies, the MDAs. Madam Speaker, the Electoral Commission has abandoned the issue of national ID as far as the electoral activities is concerned, because so many voters don't carry this national ID. And I wonder how we can say that the MDAs should pay for these services, the services which are not even there. A case in point is the electoral activities. You cannot charge Electoral Commission when most voters don't have the national ID. So I think, Madam Speaker, Nira should first of all clean their house. There are very many demotivated staff, Madam Speaker, both at the districts and even at the national level. So much so that very many the people's particulars are not being entered rightly, and this brings a standstill in the process of processing this national ID. Madam Speaker, even me as a member of Parliament, I lost my national ID sometimes back in South Africa, but I would like to tell you, Madam Speaker, that up to now, I've not yet managed to secure one. One of the reasons that I was told is that when they were entering the information, they did not enter it well. And Madam Speaker, if at my level, I can also take years processing my ID, and I also have a colleague who took 6 years in this Parliament processing a national ID.
That shows that there's a very, very serious issue, Madam Speaker, that this Parliament must find a way of addressing it through the relevant ministries who are represented here by the ministers to help our people out there. Then, finally, Madam Speaker, I would like to urge that all districts must have offices, and these offices must be well staffed, so that an older person from the rural area and even people who have never stepped Kampala, they have the access to the Nira offices. And this staff must be well motivated, Madam Speaker. I want to thank you, and Madam Speaker, finally, and once again, the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Internal Affairs, I think they should be here present and tell us the way forward that they will address these problems that we have with Nira. I thank you.
Mabo Kaberuka, then Vasem. Oh, it's Babadiri. Kaberuka, then Babadiri should move here. No, I saw someone there. She should move nearer first. No, let's start with Babadiri. Kaberuka, Babadiri, then I come there. Help her to move this side.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, Nira is a very important institution in the lives of Ugandans. And Madam Speaker, apparently everything is done upon the production of a national identity card. In the event that it is difficult to get an identity card, even the members of parliament, it is, Madam Speaker, it is worse for the children whose exercise we passed 10 billion, and I remember, Madam Speaker, even the Minister of Education brought another supplementary in the House to expedite this process. And you can find, Madam Speaker, when they went down to do this exercise, machines would take like a week without being in operation. They would say machines are down. Madam Speaker, another problem I observed is that the children were paying money to photocopy their birth certificates, and you can imagine if you have asked for money to go and register the children, why do you ask for money from these children to photocopy these documents, and even you solicit money from them? I thought it was encompassing all those challenges. Madam Speaker, the report is encompassing many issues and which are pertinent, which means the government is not taking care of this important institution. Why should these people pay money renting government institution? Madam Speaker, we need clarification from the government. Why should this institution, which is young, developing, why should it be paying rent from the same government institution property? Madam Speaker, I would suggest that for the services of Nira to be proper and reach the people, decentralization policy is a government policy. Why shouldn't we decentralize these services to the, at least at worst, they be at the sub-county, and the sub-county Nira offices become operational such that the people of Uganda get services at least at the sub-county headquarters. Other than traversing from Kanungu to Kampala, and Madam Speaker, before COVID, you realize that this Kololo playground, people were staying there for a long time, weeks, months. Because, Madam Speaker, when I lost my ID, I took about 4 months before I could get one. And I think I was the one, I got it faster. I think I got it faster. Madam Speaker, I think the services should be decentralized. And Madam Speaker, the audit the committee has suggested, it should take place, and we need to give it time, Madam Speaker, because we need to know why was this exercise never completed, and what do they need for it to be completed. As such that we give Ugandans, these children need to be certified and secure, because this is a very important document. Madam Speaker, I beg to submit.
Thank you, Honorable Babadiri. Then Otieno, Nabila, and then I go to the other members there.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to thank the committee for detailed report on Nira. Madam Speaker, Nira, as one of the authorities in Uganda, is a very important institution. And since it has been established, a lot of problems have been raised for lack of performance. But I've discovered today that this is caused because of lack of funds. Nira lacks all the things. Even the staff is less than a quarter of what is supposed to be. The furniture, as mentioned, not there. Equipment, that's why it's not performing very well as expected. Madam Speaker, other authorities, like Road Authority and other authorities, they get millions of money. They have enough of money to perform their jobs. Why not Nira, which is very important? Without national identity cards, you cannot do anything. You cannot go to university. You cannot get treatment. You cannot get, even if you want to go abroad, passport is very necessary. Why not fund this authority like any other authority? Members of Parliament, I beg you that let us put our foot down and say, let the fund for Nira should be increased so that it can perform its job very well. Madam Speaker, regarding the project of the children, the learners, I've heard that if your parents do not have national identity cards, you are not registered. And there are very many parents over there who do not have the identity cards. Then also they said orphans, single mothers, parents, and so children. But you are all aware that the parents are always there. Single mothers are always there with their children. How can we leave out this large population? I think it is very important that we consider everybody. I know even if you are disabled now with your children, even they may not register you because they marginalize you. So registration is a must and it's a human right. We must make sure that we facilitate Nira to provide these national identity cards which we need badly. Madam Speaker, Nira also should improve its work. If you know that you are few, do what you can. But the few who are there are not doing the work. For example, in Koboko, there are very many national identity cards there without the owners. When you go to look for it, they don't decentralize to the sub-counties. And you say that days and days looking for identity cards. They are there and they are being wasted. Some are already registering new ones. So the few staff who are there must also work very hard. And also we need to use the money which is given efficiently. There shouldn't be any corruption. So that the little funds given is used for its purpose. We need the identity cards and we need Nira to be funded and it must do its work very well. Thank you very much.
Honorable Onsima, then Nagai Otieno. 2 minutes, please. After Honorable Onsima, you go to Zoom, you get Honorable Nagai, then we shall get to Engineer Nakate, Otieno Nakate, Karungi, Vasemera.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to thank the committee for the report. Madam Speaker, I want to add my voice on the issue of replacement. Replacement is a very serious problem, and you will recall that some time back government decided to halt issuing of SIM cards, that the SIM cards must be registered in line with one's national ID. But as we talk now, though that was aimed at controlling issues of criminal acts, but as we talk now, this might not be helpful. Madam Speaker, many people are using their relatives' cards to register SIM cards. That therefore means that the original idea that a SIM card must correspond with somebody's national ID does not really occur. So this is already a challenge. And the problem has been that everybody who wants to replace national ID must come to Kololo. Madam Speaker, my proposal will be that if taking it to district level will be too costly for government, at least we should have regional offices where people can go and replace their national IDs. A friend of mine told me he came for around 1 week. He will reach Kololo at 4 a.m. But in that 1 week, there was no way he could access services until he went back. So it is a very huge problem. For me, I will request that government must look at decentralizing this to either regional level. The issue of replacement of IDs could be also at district level. That one will be my proposal, Madam Speaker, because all the people across the country to come to Kololo is a very huge problem. I beg to submit, Madam Speaker.
So I invite Honorable Nabila. I think in the last debate we had, the minister undertook to decentralize. I hope can update us today. In the last debate about 3 months ago, he made that undertaking. So Honorable Nabila on Zoom.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to thank the committee for a comprehensive report. My contribution and agitation will be around the infrastructure support and challenges that Nira is facing. I can see that we are talking about rent to a fellow government agency, and for the whole committee not to have the information on who is taking government money and causing suffering to many Ugandans, I think the minister and the leader of government business, Madam Speaker, should be called urgently to address that kind of mafia operations that are fleecing taxpayers and also causing suffering of Ugandans who would want to access services of Nira, and also the money that could otherwise go to the necessary expenditure that Nira has. You know very well that Ugandans have a lot of anxiety, because even when you want to access bank services, they don't want any other ID, most bank services. They want national IDs. And this is an anomaly that we've seen between different agencies, where a fellow government agency is considered a stranger or a foreign agency, even when taxpayers have an infrastructure or a building that they've paid for. Madam Speaker, I think as Parliament we cannot downplay the impunity that individuals portray by getting illegal, illicit money from government agencies and causing infrastructure delays. Madam Speaker, I want your office to use your office to ask the leader of government business to clarify, because as you know, most of these government employees, like in the authority, fear for their jobs. That's why they could not divulge the individuals or cartel that is taking that rental money. So, Madam Speaker, I want to appeal to you to use your office and demand that the payee of the 56 million becomes, known to all of us. Otherwise, we'll continue having impunity by certain circles who are frustrating government services. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Otieno. Otieno Nakate Karunji Vasemera. Then we close.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I want to thank the committee for the report. Right Honourable Speaker, the truth be told, there is chaos in Nira. There is a management problem there. Right Honourable Speaker, because of these problems in Nira, innocent Ugandans are suffering. And I want to bring to the attention of the Minister of Internal Affairs. We are having a challenge. Right, Mr. Speaker, there were some police recruits. Some policemen were recruited. At that time, they used registration certificates. Now they have been undergoing training. They are about to qualify. Police is insisting without IDs, these police recruits are going to be thrown out. It is not their fault, right, Mr. Speaker. It is not their fault that they cannot get the national IDs. The Minister of Internal Affairs is in charge of Nira. It is the one in charge of police. We do not understand why Nira, Minister of Internal Affairs, cannot fix the problems in Nira so that Ugandans can get their IDs and be able to do whatever they are supposed to do. And I want the Minister of Internal Affairs to assure Ugandans that these police recruits are not going to be thrown out simply because of a problem which is not their making. It is not they who have failed to ensure that Nira gives them national IDs, right, Mr. Speaker. Right, Mr. Speaker, on the issue of payment of rent, there is a problem of connivance. This matter came to the Budget Committee. We tasked Nira to provide for us an agreement they didn't have. Then we asked them, if Nira is paying Minister of Internal Defense, then that must be an NTR revenue to Minister of Defense. We asked them to give us evidence that they have ever paid this money, and even Minister of Defense, there is no evidence that they have ever received the NTR from Nira to the tune of this 56 million per month. So, right, Mr. Speaker, committee needs to interrogate this matter further. There is a pure case of connivance between the Minister of Defense officials and officials in Nira. It is not true that this is government payment, this money going to the coffers of government, because that money has never gone to the consolidated fund. So I will request the committee to dig further into the issue of the payment of rent by Nira to Minister of Defense. Right, Mr. Speaker, I think there is a total management failure in Nira. And Minister of Internal Affairs need to look into this matter squarely and come up with the real solutions. The same committee in 2017 discovered, and it was being chaired by Honorable Judith Nabakova, who is now a Minister of Minister of ICT. And they had similar problems with the Nira. Nira could not account for 8.4 billion shillings money collected from this exercise of registering learners. Now, right, Mr. Speaker, there is a problem. You're getting an impression that Nira is underfunded, which is not the case. This issue of underfunding is simply being used under pretext and just a cover to fail to deliver, to give Ugandans services that we deserve. But there is generally a mismanagement by the current leadership of Nira, and I do not know why the committee is shy to point out this, because this is something which is known to the committee. In 2017, they handed over Nira management to CID. I don't know how far CID has gone with this matter. Whether they also compromise, we need a report from the Minister of Internal Affairs. What happened when the Committee of Parliament referred Nira to an organ of Minister of Internal, which is Uganda Police, regarding an organ of the same ministry, which is Nira? What happened? Did the ministry compromise police? We want to know, and that's why the issue of management of finances continue cropping up under Nira. Since 2017, what happened to that money? We are talking about Nira failing to register learners, but they misappropriated 8.4 billion Uganda shillings. How come today we are saying Nira has no money? The issue is not money, the issue is not facilitation. There is a bigger problem, and Ugandans should not be victimized because of the incompetence and negligence of officials and leadership of Nira. Right, Mr. Speaker, I urge Minister of Internal Affairs to assure this country, finally as I conclude, that the recruits of Ugandans, the Uganda police recruits, are not going to be victimized by the incompetence of Nira for failing to provide them with the national IDs, so that they don't lose their positions. Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker.
Now, Engineer Nakate, then Karungi Vasomera.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I want to thank the committee
for the comprehensive report. Madam Speaker, my concern is about the accommodation, decent accommodation for Nira office. Whereas I actually agree that yes, we need to have decent accommodation for Nira, but I also think that the committee did not do much before coming up with the recommendation that some portion of Uganda police land should be given to Nira. Madam Speaker, you recall that Uganda police, yes, has land at Narugulu, and this same land has a number of activities planned. The committee did not interest itself in finding out what is even currently happening on the 140 acres. You recall, Madam Speaker, that we also have about 60 acres that have been proposed for the Regional Forensic Referral Center of Excellency, where we think that government will even be able to get accommodation for over 30,000 units and many others. So I want to interest the committee to find out what is happening on that land before it can recommend that a portion of land be given to Nira for the decent home. Madam Speaker, I also observed that in the investment plan for Nira, they captured 12 billion to come up with a decent home. Of course, it was not very clear if the 12 billion is going to cover, part of it is for purchasing of land and then the structure itself. And then the other thing is, we know there is shortage of accommodation for Nira offices all over the country. So we don't know if in the investment plan we have a plan for accommodation all over the country or plan for only the decent home as a headquarter. So, Madam Speaker, I want to interest the committee that actually before it can recommend to have a portion of the acreage from Uganda Police, it finds out what the entity has as a general plan at Uganda Police. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Karungi. Then Vasamira.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Madam Speaker, allow me also register my appreciation to the committee for this report, which has caused me to realize, actually I had realized that maybe Nira is underfunded until when Honorable Thieno also said something that maybe there is mismanagement and negligence in that authority, which actually reduces on what I had on mind. And so I will not use much time. I will have just one request that, Madam Speaker, since this Nira came in place and started issuing out cards, I remember there is one time we discussed in this house that the cards which were never issued should be taken back to the sub-counties and the owners should get them from there. But later it was taken on that the card should be distributed from the center here at Kororo. But Madam Speaker, like colleagues have said, people have suffered a lot picking those cards, and so I have only one prayer that these cards, Madam Speaker, much as I thought that maybe Nira was underfunded, and now I'm realizing that it has just mismanaged their funds or misused, I don't know which word I should use. They should take it up to make sure that these cards which are there, because the cards are still there and the owners are there, they want them. There are cards that were left there, the owners never picked them, or they never took the cards to the right places at the right time. So my prayer is that, Madam Speaker, these cards which are still in the coffers of Nira should be taken actually to the districts so that the districts can also distribute them to the respective sub-counties and our people get them. Because I remember in the last elections, it was also another issue when some didn't have these cards and they were being requested to come with the cards. However, when they found they were the registered in the electoral books, they of course voted. So this time I don't know how it will go in case we have to vote. So I would request that these cards which are there, they be taken to their respective sub-counties so that the owners receive them. I want to thank you, Madam Speaker.
Is the minister here? I was told he was here. I hope he's here.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, for this opportunity. I want to thank the committee for the comprehensive report that has given us more light on what is happening in Nira. Madam Speaker, I think there is a big problem at Nira. Replacement of lost IDs is a serious nightmare, Madam Speaker, and yet possession of a national ID is a right of every citizen. Madam Speaker, my sister applied for the replacement of a lost ID in 2016. Today, 2020, she has not received one. And it is the case with so many people in this country. Is it a problem of citizens? What is the problem? Madam Speaker, I want to compare with other institutions that I've seen that are very efficient. For example, First Technologies, where we replace driving permits. They are very efficient. You go for a driving permit, they replace it in a week, you get it, and you are done. But a very important institution, Nira, which is handling citizens' identity cards, is so inefficient and extremely ineffective. This is very disheartening. Madam Speaker, I want also to talk about the registration of learners exercise for getting national IDs. I feel a lot of pain because I was in this house, Madam Speaker, when we appropriated money to roll out this exercise countrywide. Madam Speaker, it was mad with a lot of irregularities. In many schools, they registered halfway of the pupils, of the learners. And Madam Speaker, I am a victim of that process. My children, many of them are not in the system. My daughter, who is 20 years old, who is eligible to vote, she's not in the system. Even the photo is not there. We went there, they said it is not possible for her. It's a lot of pain, and it's happening with so many of our children in this country. Why are they that inefficient? Madam Speaker, it is my humble prayer that we urge the ministry concerned to take note of these problems. Let there be decentralization, that these IDs can be decentralized and the people access them at the sub-county level. Madam Speaker, in our rural areas, it is extremely difficult for people to move to Kampala, to Kololo, to get even to register those new who have not been registered before. It's extremely difficult. So it's my humble prayer that these irregularities are attended. And I want to buy the recommendation of the committee that the learners' registration exercise for national IDs be thoroughly investigated and concrete actions be taken to improve in this situation. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Can I invite the minister? If he has any response? Let's hear from the minister. Let's hear from him, then we come back to take the vote. Minister, if could you just use a few minutes?
Right Honourable Speaker, I beg that you allow me to pull my mask a little down because I have asthma, and if I talk when my mouth and nose are completely covered, I could have a problem.
But you'll have to learn to use it, like me.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I also want to apologize that last week when you called us, we were not around because we had another assignment up country regarding some of our people who died in some place, in northern Uganda, and we've been investigating, we're still investigating. Having said that, I want to thank the committee for this report. and we take their recommendations very seriously. Definitely, they've pointed out some of our weaknesses in Nira, and we entirely agree with them. On the issue of management, yes, it is true we've been having issues of management, but I would like to inform the House that in the last few months, we have, as a ministry, taken steps to reconstitute the board. We've appointed a new board chairperson, and in the reconstituted board, we have made it very clear that because we have not changed the law, there are institutions who are supposed to send members on the board, and they should not send busy officers. And apart from the closure which had occurred because of the coronavirus, I think we're optimistic that this new board should be able to work better. Secondly, I also like to inform the House that this board is now in the process of recruiting a new executive director after the contract of the outgoing executive director was not renewed. And it is also advertised for the recruitment of the secretary to the board. And we think these are major measures to be able to push the board a little more forward. We closed, because Nira's operations involved the public and gathering of people all over the country, after the 17th of March, when we got the guidelines of the standard operation procedures, we closed the services of Nira, right from the headquarters up to the districts and the other offices. However, beginning a week ago, we've started opening them with the headquarters, and we are realigning the process so that what we promised here in our last statement at the end of, towards the end of last year, where we want to decentralize our services to make the district service offices to work effectively, and where it is applicable to go to the sub-counties as fast as possible, will be operationalized. We will be briefing this Parliament on the progress which we make in this matter. We do realize the timing of this activity, how important it is for our people, particularly in matters of elections, and now that the national identity card is almost part and parcel of people's activity in the country. We'll be able to do as much as we can. Yes, we have poor offices. I think the reasons are really explained right from the headquarters, where we're operating from Kololo, and we are renting from the Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs. Now, this rending, we have been trying to engage the Ministry of Defense and Internal Affairs so that it is waived off. But we have not quite succeeded, and I'm sure we'll involve the ministry, the Office of the Prime Minister, to help us so that we'll come to a position. I must also hasten to say something about the charging of services by Nira, which some colleague referred to here as NTF. Cabinet, in its wisdom, decided that Nira should not charge the other MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies for services it renders because of the importance and cross-cutting effect of those services. We intend to negotiate in return a position with the Ministry of Finance to ensure that what probably we would incur by providing this cost is provided by us by some subvention. The offices at the district headquarters are few. They don't cover all the districts as we would like, simply because we do not have the funding. You know, you have to hire an office. When you hire an office, there are services which have to be provided for power, water, and so forth, and yet immediately we cannot cover all those. Right now we are staffed at about 50% of our proposed capacity. We're supposed to be 826 staff at the minimum to cover the entire country, but we have about close to 470. This is about 40%. We've budgeted for some recruitment this financial year, and as you know, the Ministry of Finance has also been reducing, and we hope that that particular aspect will not be reduced so that we're able to cover some of these expenses. Let me talk briefly about the issue of the Learners Project. The Learners Project was a project between the Ministry of Education and Sports and Internal Affairs, as you will all recall, and the funding was given to it for the first phase of the Ministry of Internal Affairs to implement. We did register 9.6 million students, although the Ministry of Education had estimated that we would have got about 8 million people. But even the 9.6 was less than the number of students when you look at the entire country, including private institutions. Because our estimate was that if you wanted to cover the entire country, you needed close to 14.8 to register 14.8 million Ugandan children in schools. Having said that, therefore, we were unable to finish the whole registration of students. But having done that, as I've said earlier on the floor of Parliament here, those who were above the age of 16 were expected to be issued with identity cards. And indeed, the identity cards were printed, and there were about 3 million people. These identity cards, from all the information we have, are supposed to have been distributed to the schools or to the districts where the schools were located. In the last statement I made on Parliament floor here, I undertook to find out where these cards are. And my information was correct that indeed these were in the schools and in the district. But the information, the mistake our people made was not to disseminate that information to the schools and the parents. This is what we are going to do now that we're opening up. When we're fully opened up, we'll be able to disseminate this information. Regarding those students who have already been registered, we don't propose to register them again. But those who were underaged, we had promised here, and they were assigned national identification numbers. Those are available, and we will disseminate them in the shortest possible time, so that even if they don't have the cards, they are able to know that they now have an identification in this country, and this is for people who are underaged. So I want you to bear with us that within a month or so we'll come back and take stock and tell you about what we have done to that level. There was an issue about this was towards the end, about policemen who have been trained and who will not be passed or who will be sent away from the training school or from the police because they don't have identity cards. That is not in our plan, and that will not happen. We definitely will confirm, I can confirm to you, that all the policemen who have been trained now and those who are already out will continue to serve. Because at the point of their recruitment, they were recruited either on their NIN numbers or on the actual identity card. So there's absolutely no reason why they should be removed. Again, the same thing about, we apologize for the delays, particularly in relating to the replacement of lost identity cards. This will be cured by part of our process of decentralization, so that our people don't have to come to Kampala. They can go to the sub-county or to the district and report their loss. The only thing that will happen in Kampala is the printing of the identity card. And once the printing has been done, this should be able to send it to them, and they should be able to collect it in the district or to the nearest point to them. There's absolutely no need for them to come over to the headquarters. I think, Right Honorable Speaker, other than other details which probably I may not have covered, I thought these are the main issues that I could respond to at this particular moment. I thank you.
The UPDF wanted to say something. No, Honour members, the debate is over. We have other work. Please, Honour Kutesa. General Kutesa, come.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. What I wanted to say here, Madam, is that the whole of Nira thing is a structural problem. How it's set up. Why build all these big offices in Kampala? Every day a child is born. When you look at this card, it shows the date of birth. And if you look at this SMS card, it starts with the year 56, when I was born. So why don't you decentralize? Why do we have a huge, with all these administrative things, how do we run our hospitals? Why are we trying to get away from Mulago, to get people to be, the services go to the people, as you are saying? Why do we have to come back here? Nira, with it I would have known how we could plan for this nation. Nira would know even each child who has entered in P1, so that we plan in 50 years, in 10 years, what class would he be in? This thing should be available. And every district, every sub-county must have a center. So why do we put these offices and then you blame the board of governors and what? Even if you change the leadership, if the structure is, it won't do any better. My advice was if they could go back and say, what is its role when it was put there? Register every Ugandan who is born. Now, when you start use administrative problems to make about a structural inconsistency, I don't think we are going to make anything better. That's my observation, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Okay, Honour members, I was surprised that the committee, despite finding that there was this exorbitant rent being paid, they did not make any recommendation. So I want to amend the recommendations by proposing that we have a forensic audit on the tenancy agreement between the Ministry of Defense and Nira. Is that okay? Honour members, I put the question that the report be amended as proposed. Those in favour say aye, the contrary no. I now put the question that the report be adopted. Those in favour say aye, the contrary no. Let's have it. Let's, Honour members wanted to go to the National Coffee Bill, but there's something which is time-bound from the Ministry of Local Government about a statutory instrument. I want, where is our chair? Honour Bonzima, where are you? Come and present it. I'm told it's time-bound. If we don't do it today, it will become effective.
Item 8 on the order paper. Motion for adoption of the report of the Committee on Public Service and Local Government on the local government's amendment of the 5th schedule Statutory Instrument 2020.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
And if you could really summarize, we're almost into curfew time.
Maybe I'll just go to observations and the recommendations.
State the subject and go to observations.
Okay. Before that, I want to lay a copy of the report and the minutes. I beg to lay. Madam Speaker, the local government amendment of 5th schedule statutory instrument 2020 was laid before Parliament on the 23rd of June 2020 and referred to the Committee on Public Service and Local Government for scrutiny and the report back to the House. In scrutinizing the statutory instrument, the committee was guided by the rules of procedure, that is Rule 196 of the Rules of Procedure of Parliament, to examine whether the legal requirements prescribed in the Section 175 were complied with as far as the enactment of this statutory instrument is concerned. B, examine the legality, rationality, and appropriateness of the proposals contained in the statutory instrument, and C, recommend to Parliament to approve, amend, or revoke the statutory instrument. Madam Speaker, I will request to go to objective of the statutory instrument, that is 505. The instrument intends to amend the 5th schedule of the Local Government Act, making it a local government statutory instrument 2020. The instrument seeks to address the inadequacies in the current mode of operation that have greatly affected operationalization of instrument, emerging trends and challenges in the management of park user fees by providing for effective management and the levying of park user fees payable by taxis and buses to local governments and Kampala Capital City Authority, which is envisaged to boost revenue bases to these local governments as well as central government. Compliance with human rights. Madam Speaker, I will beg those other areas, members can read them. I go to observations and recommendations. Application of regulations. Whereas the statutory instrument does not contain any application section, it can be dissented that it applies to all local governments in Uganda, including KCCA. Interpretation. It should be noted that the instrument applies to the following categories of vehicles: heavy omnibus being a motor vehicle having seating accommodation exceeding 60 passengers, excluding the driver. B, light omnibus being a motor vehicle having seating accommodation for more than 7 but not exceeding 20 passengers, excluding the driver. Medium omnibus being a motor vehicle having seating accommodation for more than 20 but not exceeding 60 passengers, excluding the driver. And taxi cabs being a motor car used as a passenger vehicle which stands on a rank of piles to hire on a road or fixed place of fixed place of businesses, and is licensed to carry passengers for hire or reward under a contract, express or implied, for the use of the vehicle as a whole at the authorized fee and rates displayed on the vehicle and the sum indicated on the meter. Whereas it is it is discernible that these regulations only apply to passenger vehicle service that have been gazetted or designated parks for loading or offloading passengers. It should be observed that the definition as per the vehicles included is limiting and doesn't cater for lorries and other trucks. The committee is of the view that the catchment be widened by the use of commercial vehicles, which will now include lorries and other trucks. This will then also require gazetting of such parks and determination of rates to be paid by these. It is also important to note that under the Traffic and Road Safety Act 1998, a person who intends to utilize a vehicle as a passenger service vehicle is required to obtain a passenger service vehicle license, whereas the vehicles that the regulations seek to apply to are only those that carry passengers for commercial purposes. The definition in Regulation 17A does not point to this clearly and runs the risk of applying to other vehicles, including private vehicles such as school buses and tour vehicles, which carry passengers in capacities indicated in the regulations. There is need to provide for a clear definition and application provision targeting only commercial passenger service vehicles and motorcycles. It should also be noted that the certain instrument only applies to park, which is defined in Regulation 17A. Park means any public or private land or area gazetted and physically identified or planned by any urban authority within its territorial boundaries for the purpose of loading or offloading passengers. The committee observes that under allocation of the park user fee, there is no reference to meeting the interest of the private land or park owners, and it recommends that the regulations should also be explicit on how the interests of the private land owners of a gazetted park are to be taken care of. It should also further be noted that whereas the regulations apply to taxi cabs, commonly known as special hire vehicles, these have, at least for KCCA, no designated parks. For instance, KCCA has gazetted 8 parks, being the old taxi park, the new taxi park, and parks at Natete, Nakawa, Osafi Market, Namaiba, and Kisenyi. These parks are gazetted for heavy, light, or medium-heavy omnibus, and none has been gazetted for use by taxi cab vehicles, notwithstanding that they have passenger service licenses. In that regard, therefore, since park user fees are charged for use of gazetted park, the proposal to charge taxi cabs the taxi user fee is still not clear. They can be charged commercial road user fees rather than park user fee, since they have no parks. Indeed, this was the case under Regulation 4 of the Kampala Capital City Commercial Road User Regulation 2015. Also related to the above, the regulations are limited in scope and do not apply to all categories of passenger service vehicles and motorcycles that are prevalent today. For instance, commercial passenger service motor vehicles or motorcycles, such as those using internet-based vehicle hiring or ride-sharing applications such as Taxify, SafeBorder, Uber, are not cared for under these regulations, in spite of their existence in Uganda. Since these do not fall within the definition of taxi cab as proposed in the regulations, it is therefore not clear as to what taxi cabs are being targeted in the regulations and why other categories of commercial passenger vehicles and motorcycles which currently exist in Uganda are not catered for in these regulations. The committee recommends that the minister should prescribe road user fees in some instances rather than park user fee for the categories that do not have designated parks, especially taxi cabs and internet-based vehicles or motorcycle hailing or riding sharing applications. Levy of park user fee and sharing of revenue. Regulation 17B prescribes the following park user fee for every taxi cab, light, medium, and heavy omnibus licensed as a public service vehicle, loading or offloading passengers within a district, urban authority, or KCCA. The prescribed user fees are as follows. A, for a person operating taxi cab or light omnibus within more than one district, urban authority, or within and outside KCCA is 840,000 per year. B, for a person operating a taxi cab or light omnibus within one district, urban authority, or within KCCA, only is 720,000 per year. A person operating a medium omnibus or heavy omnibus in a district, urban authority, or KCCA is 2,400,000 per year. The committee makes note that whereas fees proposed are reasonably for persons operating within KCCA, which has a day population of 5 million and a night population of 3 million, meaning that about 2 million people commute to Kampala on a daily basis. The same cannot be stated for persons operating in other parts of the country. For example, 840,000 in park underuse fee may thus be unreasonably high to those outside Kampala and a few other developed urban areas, owing to the low volume of passengers and the transport charges. The committee recommends that the minister should review the rates payable in the different districts, local governments, and urban areas, and where necessary, consider discriminating the park user fees against the current balance of these park user fees across the board. On sharing of revenue, Regulation 17D require that, in accordance with the Public Finance Management Act 2015, the Accountant General shall allocate the park user fee paid in respect of each taxi cab, light omnibus, medium omnibus, or heavy omnibus to a district, urban authority, or Kampala capital city where it operates on a monthly basis. The revenue collected from the park user fee is shared as follows. In the case of a taxi cab or a light omnibus to a district, urban authority, or Kampala capital city authority, where a taxi cab or light omnibus originates, as indicated on the route chart, pays park user fee of 504,000. B, district, urban authority, or Kampala capital city authority, where a taxi cab or light omnibus destination, as indicated on the route chart, pays park user fee of 336,000. All districts, urban authority, or Kampala capital city authority through which the taxi cab or light omnibus transits through pays 0. In the case of medium omnibus or heavy omnibus, all districts, urban authorities, and Kampala capital city authority, as indicated on the route chart, share equally. The committee observes that whereas a taxi cab or a light omnibus is allowed to operate in more than one district, when it comes to sharing of fees, the fees are divided among the originating and final destination districts of the vehicle, excluding districts which the vehicle transits through, notwithstanding that the vehicle may actually use the parks in those areas to disembark or pick up more passengers before proceeding to its final destination. Further still, there is no equity in the manner of sharing revenue between destination and originating destination of a taxi cab or light omnibus, with the originating local government getting more money than the destination. In light of the above, the committee recommends that the minister should consider providing for the equitable sharing of revenue in the case of a taxi cab or a light omnibus with all districts and local governments indicated on the route chart, rather than as it proposed in the Regulation 17D. Payment of park user fees. Regulation 17C, the statutory instrument, deals with the payment of park user fees, and it requires park user fees to be collected by Uganda Revenue Authority and remitted to the consolidated fund. The provision further requires that a person shall fill in a bank payment advance form to be provided by Uganda Revenue Authority or complete an online registration, assessment, and payment on Uganda Revenue Authority online platform. A person paying the park user fee using a bank payment advance form provided by Uganda Revenue Authority under subsection 2 to deposit the amount assessed in the bank indicated on the payment advance form. C, a person who has paid the park user fee under this regulation shall retain the bank slip or receipt as proof of payment of the park user fees. The provision finally requires that person shall not be issued with a public service vehicle license issued under the Traffic and Road Safety Act unless he or she has proof of payment of the park user fees. The committee has reviewed the proposals and found them necessary. The provisions now require the payment of these fees directly to the consolidated fund, a matter that will make the administration of these fees easily and stop the abuse of such fees as was evident in the past. It should, however, be noted that the provision has some enforcement challenges and is limited in scope. For instance, whereas the provision imposes an obligation on a person who has paid park user fee to retain a copy of the bank slip as proof of payment, it does not indicate what document will be issued identifying a person who has paid from that person who has not paid. Whereas the payment is for park user fees, there is nothing in these regulations which shall identify the vehicle for which the payment is made or the route allocated to such a vehicle. This will make the sharing of revenue difficult since the person who will pay will not know what the originating or final destination of the vehicle will be. The provision does not allow for the monthly or quarterly payment of these user fees since it is envisaged on yearly payment. This will affect compliance since not all vehicle operators can afford to pay the annual fees. There is need to allow for the payment of tax user fee in a manner that is reasonable and within the means of most Ugandans to make. Allowing the monthly payment will ease compliance and will enable passenger service vehicle which is not working in any month for any reason not to pay such a user fees, since ordinarily this should only apply to a person accessing the park. The committee recommends that the minister considers allowing the payment of the annual park fee monthly, quarterly, or annually. B, including in the regulations the issuance of an identifying sticker to a person who complies with the provisions and payment of park user fee. C, including in the regulations the requirement that a person making a payment should include the vehicle number and the route which the vehicle plies. Otherwise, the payment of these revenues to the relevant district or urban authority will be challenging. Enforcement of regulations. The statutory instrument.
Honorable Chair, if you could just read the subject and the recommendation. You know, you're reading the entire report. Just read the subject and the recommendations. So for enforcement, you go straight to your recommendations.
Okay. For enforcement of regulations, the committee recommends that the minister should consider removing the penalty of imprisonment from the regulations, particularly in Rule 17F, since it contravenes Section 175 of the Local Government Act and Section 18 of the Interpretation Act. Amendment of number 3 of 225, amendment of statutory instrument number 3. The committee recommends that the minister should consider the legal implication of these proposals and find a way of not only complying with the Interpretation Act, but also consider incorporating the provisions of Rule 2 on application, Rule 6 dealing with the exemptions from paying fees in certain circumstances, and Rule 7 dealing with the notification of authorized officers of exemption can be adopted for inclusion in the local government amendment of 5th schedule, statutory instrument 2022. Madam Speaker, lack of commencement provisions. The committee observes that there is need to the local government's amendment of 5th schedule, statutory instrument 2020, or if not possible, at least a transitional provision to cater for existing valid commercial road user stickers that were issued under the Kampala Capital City Authority Regulations 2015 or similar laws in other local governments. Procedural challenges of Section 175 of the Local Government Act. The committee recommends that Section 175 be amended to ensure that the statutory instrument is first brought to Parliament for ratification before it is published in the Gazette. Madam Speaker, looking at all the above, in light of all the above observations and loopholes in the local government amendment of 5th schedule, statutory instrument 2020, the committee therefore recommends that the statutory instrument 2020 should be revoked. This House should direct the Minister to consider issues observed and the recommendations made by the committee before the instrument is retabled. Right Honourable Speaker, I beg to submit.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair and members of the Committee of Public Service and Local Government for that detailed report and very, very careful analysis of the law and the impact. Are there any comments? Now, members, I put the question that the report be adopted. Those in favor say aye. Oh, the Minister. Oh, Minister. I think you've just come.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I want to thank the chairperson for the report. Right Honourable Chair, before we came up with the statutory instrument, we held wide consultative meetings with all the tax operators, owners, the bus owners, and operators. We had even to sit together with His Excellency the President to seek for further guidance. And Right Honourable, here we are only dealing with taxis and buses. We left out the trucks, we left out the motorcycles, and we left out the special hire, because these are supposed to come in later after this instrument. And the reason we had to handle the two, there was a public outcry from these operators and owners that they were paying multiple taxes. So we had now to agree that we remove the multiple taxes by ensuring that they only pay once in a year. And this was after